Hello, and welcome to Naptown Fabric Studio. I'm Mark Wecht, and today I will show you how to crochet an infinity scarf, also known as a mobius scarf. It's easy and quick to make because we are using a large hook and 2 strands of number 4 worsted weight yarn. Please join me and check out the notes for details. Okay, today we're going to make a mobius scarf. This mobius scarf is a nice, it's 100% wool. It's made with 2 skeins of 3.5 ounce Patons classic worsted wool. So this would be worsted or number 4. And it's 2 skeins, and it's wound together. So this contains, I think it's about 210 yards or something in each skein, and so this would be like 420 yards total, but it's pulled side by side. So anyway, these are mobius scarves, which means that we start them in the center. So the center chain will be in the center of the width of the scarf. And then every time you go around, you alternate basically which side of center you're going on. So basically, in order to size this out properly to be a loose 2-wrap scarf, I figured out that these 2 skeins, we'll use them and then there'll be a little bit left over. So anyway, let's get started. The most important thing is to make a good chain. The chain will be in the very center, and the looseness or tightness of that chain in the center would control when you stretch the scarf out, how restrictive or not restrictive that chain is. So I try to make that chain as loose as I can. And then the nice thing about the mobius is when you get to the outside, these outside edges aren't your beginning chains, so they're just part of your regular stitching, and so they come out quite nicely. We sell these scarves at craft shows and at farmers markets for $30. The 2 skeins of yarn usually cost between $6 and $7 a piece. So you're talking about $14 worth of material, and then I can usually make one in maybe 3 hours, 3.5 hours, and then sell it for $30. And as with most homemade products or handmade products, usually they're a labor of love. You don't usually always get as much as you think you might want to get for them, but if you enjoy making them, I usually will sit and watch a football game and make one within the bounds of the game, and don't really feel that I've lost any time or anything. So anyway, so I'm gonna put this to the side and start with the chain. I feel that tensions are very important with chaining and with stitching. So whether you've wound it into a yarn cake, center pull, or whether you've wound it onto a ball works fine as well. I never want to, when I'm stitching, have any tension coming from pulling from the ball or on the unwinding of the ball. So I usually pull out enough for me to start working with, and and then start chaining that material. So I've figured out over time, after making a couple hundred of these, and you can make them you know, multicolor or one color. This lighter color yarn is easier to see stitches being made on the videos. That's why I'm using a lighter color yarn here. We just are going to start in the normal way. I like to have the yarn already wound together. I found over time that just pulling it from two separate skeins doesn't always work real well, because you can get a difference in tension on one side versus the other. So it's a little extra effort to wind it together. I did this on a ball winder. It went pretty quickly. Watch the tensions. You don't want to wind it too tight, because you don't want the yarn to you know, be like stretched out. So so anyway, so we're just going to do leave enough here to weave in at the end. We're just going to do slip knot to get started, and then I'll show you how I work my chain. So tighten that down a good bit. So what I do to measure this out and do a chain is, by the way, I'm using a size 11.5 millimeter P needle. I find that it makes a nice scarf, and with the double yarn, it gives it a nice chunky look, and it's functional. So what I do is, rather than chaining up and having this pulled down tight on the needle, I usually pull back enough that it looks to me like I could, like a teardrop shape, where I could almost get another needle in there, sort of, but not quite. And what I do is I just pull the yarn through, and then I grab it at the bottom and pull it up and make sure that I get a nice sort of loose chain. So what we're looking for here are 80 chains, and so I have 3, and so I'm going to go through this. Whoops, I screwed up. Sorry about that. Started pulling my tail through versus the working yarn. It does happen. Happens to the best of us, especially when you're not paying attention. So let me just pull this back out. Now let's work with the with the working yarn. So there's 1. I'm leaving a nice space there. 2. See how I'm pulling that through 3. I'm kind of holding here, and then I'm adjusting the size of the chain as I pull it through. There's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And I'm counting those out. I got to the 12th one. I found a trick. I used to spend a lot of time, since you're going to be doing a circle, and this chain is going to get wrapped, you know, around and attached to itself. While I can see that the chain is not twisted, I'm going to slip the last loop up over the end of my needle, so that I have the beginning and the end together, and I just kind of hold on to that after I have about 12 chained on there, and then I'm going to complete the rest until I have 80. So that'll be 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And I'm trying to be as consistent as I can and make sure the chains are, you know, about the same size. I have 20 on there. Now I'm probably going to fast forward through this. I'll let you see what I'm doing. And then I'll meet you again when I get close to the end so you can see how that goes to complete the chain. Okay, I'm at 77, so I'm going to go 78, 79, and then 80. Now here's the beauty of carrying that first stitch. You just slide it up. I'm going to do a slip stitch, pull through both, and then I'm going to go right back and we're going to do double crochet into what is called the bump. So you see on this chain, as I pull this chain out, you can see this loop right here. Most people call that the bump. And so what I do is I sort of painstakingly here want to get back into the very first bump, which is right on the other side of that slip through those two. So it's yarn under, through the bump, and then it's double crochet. So this first one is kind of tight because of the nature of what we're doing here. So I have to kind of work it through. It goes a little easier after this, and then through the second part of it. Now, great. So now you just go with it. Yarn under, through, and we're just going to do double crochet. Yarn over, through, double crochet. So we're just going to double crochet our way around until we get all the way back to the beginning again. So I'll do a couple stitches more here for you. The beauty is now you don't have to count anymore. You can just relax and crochet. Now I've made these scarves many different ways. Sometimes I'll do all double crochet. Sometimes I'll do all half double crochet. Sometimes I'll do some rows in double crochet and some rows in single crochet, and just kind of mix it up. You kind of, you know, but after you get some experience at it, you'll, you know, see that you can come up with some slightly different textures. Now what you'll notice, I'm going to stop here in a second. Tensions are so important. See, I'm now getting down to where I'm going to start pulling it out of the ball. I really don't want to do that. So I'm going to pull out some more so that there is zero tension on the yarn. And you can do this any way you want to, really. Some of you may be okay with tension, depending on how your technique is. But I like any tension to come from my hand that is guiding the stitching and from how I'm pulling the needle. What you're looking for with the double crochet here, from where I started back here at the beginning, you're looking for nice ladder rung look, you know, that looks, you know, fairly even on the top and the bottom. Had I not made my chain an appropriate size, you see how consistent when I stretch this, both the top and the bottom seem to give about the same amount. If one of your sides is tighter than the other, start over. That's all I can say. Maybe practice doing smaller amounts to to begin with. I've done this long enough now that I kind of have a pretty good feel for it. So I'm going to continue to you know, go through the bumps, just doing the double crochet stitch. And again, I want you to see most of this happening, so I may fast forward now and then catch up with you when I get around to the other side, because this, you know, the counting the chain out was probably, you know, the more tedious counting thing. These stitches are fairly straightforward and easy. The bump is really easy to get into because my chain is loose. But in order to make the scarf a mobius scarf, where it's got the half twist in it, when we get around to the other side, that is where that decision is made. If you go up the wrong side when we get around to the other side of this loop, you will not have a mobius. You will have just started creating a scarf that is a straight circle scarf, which is fine. You can make a circle scarf this way. But then it's even super more critical that the chain tension was correct. So I'm going to plow through this, and again, I'll probably fast forward here and I'll meet you on the other side when I get close to coming around and show you how to put the half twist in there. Okay, we're almost back around to the other side, and without fail, every single time I get around to the other side, there's some little nuance or some different way a stitch is falling that makes me have to reevaluate or something. But this looks okay. I'm still going into the bumps. Looks like I have this last bump to go through here where my original knot was. So I'm going to do that. That'll complete going all the way around the chain. Then I'm going to just pull this out a little bit so I get the needle out of the way. Make sure it's not twisted. Make sure my part with the working yarn and where I'm going to put my needle is on top, just for sanity's sake here. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to we want a half twist so that when we start crocheting from here across, if we were going to just make a circle scarf, we would just go straight across here. And we would keep going around and around. And this would be one edge of the scarf. Here, this would be one edge. And then the other edge would just grow in this direction. But the way we're going to work this in a mobius, this is going to be the center of the scarf. And the scarf is going to work out in both directions. So all I'm going to do is take right here where it's joined together. I'm just going to take this side, I'm just going to turn it toward me. I could have turned it away from me one time, or I could turn it toward me. It really doesn't matter. So turn it toward me, and now I'm going to put my needle back in, and I'm going to go into the top of the first pillar or rung and make sure that I get the needle all the way in through there. So yarn over, through, top stitch, make sure you get the working yarn and not the tail. I'm going to pull it a little bit tighter on this first one because I'm joining from the other side. I don't want a hole in the middle of my scarf. So that's all there is to it. So now I'm going to just go ahead and double crochet through the top of each pillar, which just means a double crochet into the next stitch all the way around. So I may fast forward this a little beyond this point, and I'll catch up with you when we get around to the other side. I'll just mention that there are 80 stitches in our chain, and now that we've turned it into a mobius, we will go 80 around to complete half a row, and then we have to go around 80 again to complete the whole row. So now a row is 160 stitches. If I bring in the scarf I was showing you to begin with, you can see this one different colored row that's in here. The center is in here. When I got out to this point, I changed color, and this are actually part of the same row. So this is one row of this color, but because it's done in a mobius, each row leaves its mark on each side of center. So anyway, so I will meet up with you on the other end of this half row. Coming up on the end of the first 80 stitches, and you can see there's the tail from the original chain coming out on this side toward me, and I had purposely left it going out the other side when we started. This is my indication that I'm at the halfway point. When I get all the way around to the end of the 160 stitches that make this up, that will be on the other side, letting me kind of know, hey, I finished that side. So anyway, so I'm coming up on this. You'll see that there's nothing really super special. We just have to make sure that we catch the right stitches going across the bound so as to not leave too big a hole. And so as I get closer, I'm kind of looking to see what I've got to do here. So this one's definitely a stitch. So I have to look at this and say, okay, well, let me show you what we have here. We have, you can see this, we have a pillar here that I'm into. There's a pillar here that has the original chain start end, and then there's the small pillar kind of here. that we're going to need to try to get into the top of so that we can go right on along here. So as we go across this bridge, what I do is I find a way to gather up, a way to get in there and make sure I get a stitch I can get into. And just play it by ear. You can tell what looks right. So just yarn over, and I'm going to go all the way in through all of this there. I'm going to pull this one a little tighter like I did the first time around, just to pull it together. And now I'm going to go into the top of the next pillar. And I'm just going to keep going. I didn't have to do anything special. I didn't have to twist anymore. It's now a lot easier to get the stitches in because I'm on the other end of the original chain, which gives you a ton of space to get in there. You'll find pretty much the rest of the work that you'll do on the scarf is pretty straightforward. I'm again doing all double crochets. As you see me working across here, I'll stop in a second and just pull this through and show you. So here's the dead center of the thing. Here is where the initial chain started. We still have this sort of uniform stretchiness to it, which means you've nailed the center chain and gotten that well. This sort of gap that you see here, when we're all done and we go to weave these ends in, what I do is I get creative and kind of make sure that I adjust that gap with my weaving in at the end, and I'll show you that. But for now, it's not a big deal. Some of these other holes are equally as big. You just don't realize it. This one's, anyway, it's all good. So we completed the chain. We completed one set around on top of that. We did the half twist in the middle, and then we went halfway around, halfway because we're having our tails come out toward us. So now we're going to go the rest of the way around, and I'll probably fast forward through this and meet you on the other side. Okay, well, we're getting back around to the beginning. I can tell that because now the beginning tail is coming out the back of my work. And you'll see that when I get just to about where that tail's coming out, I should have about the same amount of material on both sides of center. Let's see, another couple stitches. I may or may not have gone far enough yet. Doesn't matter. I just want to show you. So what we have is we have the center rungs that we put in when we did the very first beginning of this thing. And then now you see we have one set of rungs on either side of center. So there should be a total of 3, 1, 2, 3 rows basically that we have here. And so right here I have 1, 2, 3 rows. Here I have 1, 2, 3 rows. It's a little rough right here at the interconnection point because this is where your yarn is. So if I were going to end the scarf right here, I would take this double crochet down to a single crochet and then down to a slip stitch so that it just kind of ducked down there, and then weave the ends in. If I wanted to change colors, I would change colors at this point and then go all the way around, and I'd end up like here, and then all the way around one more time to end up back here, and move forward like that. I may do another video and show the color changing, but I know there's plenty of YouTube videos on how to change colors. I may fast forward a little bit. I'll probably bring you back around to where the tail is facing out toward me, let you catch up, and then go around again until the tail is facing away. You can see how this scarf has I guess some stretch to it. I'm able to, stretch it out. Stretching out to about 36 inches. This mat that's below me is about 36 inches. You can see the half twist in the side facing toward me. So if we pull this thing all together and we lay it all down flat on itself, then at the end of the day, we have at this end we have a half twist, which is the mobius. So this is this kind of scarf. It's mobius or infinity. You can call it an infinity scarf. I will see you back around at the end of the next 80 stitches. Just try to be consistent with your tension. You may see me at some point stop pulling it out of the center pull. That'll be when the tension coming out of the center pull ball is just about non-existent, meaning that there's enough space in there that when I start pulling on it, it just comes out. So I'll just turn it sideways and just let it feed to me. There's still a slight amount of tension there, so I'm still pulling it out. Okay, we're coming up. You see the tails coming out here. So we're coming up, we're like 1, 2, 3 stitches away from being halfway around the mobius. So this will be the last 3 stitches of probably about 80 stitches. So I'm going to make these last 3, and then so now we're halfway around. You can kind of see that we have 1, 2, 3 in this direction, and well, just 1, 2 in this direction off the center, and just 1 in this direction. So we know there's got to be a balanced number on each side to have completed an actual row. So so I'm just going to continue going here. I'm going to reinsert the needle, yarn over, basically just keep going into the next stitch with a double crochet. I guess it's a good idea maybe to just pause a second right here and just some of you may be wondering if you want to add additional colors in, and like how much yarn would it take to go around. There's probably a million different ways to figure that out. I basically started with, hey, how much yarn is in one stitch? So if I consider the stitch to be starting, with the next stitch, and I know if I unwind it back to there, if I yarn over, go through, make the stitch, and then come through and come through like that. If I then pull that out and hold on to where I started, then it ends up being about 6 inches. So it's about 6 inches of these 2 yarns side by side to do a double crochet. It'd be slightly less for a single crochet, more for a triple crochet, and almost about the same for a half double crochet, but you can measure that out. So to go one time around, sort of the 80, that'd be 80 times 6 inches. Plus you got to go around again to complete the row. So it would be 160 times about 6 inches. So if you're questioning whether you have enough yarn when you start a row to make it all the way around, make sure you have a bit more than 6 inches times 160. But you can measure, everybody's stitches are different lengths depending on the tension. So, but I just thought I'd mention that to you. Okay, so I'm going to just fast forward, and I'll meet you after we complete this row, after we finish this next 80 stitches. Okay, so I'm all the way back around again. We can tell that because here's the tail coming out the back side from where I am. Just to double check things, should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows, one center row with 2 2 rows additional mobius. So what we've done now is really 3 rows, but by completing these last 2 rows, you get the 2 rows on the other side as well, because it always grows each one time around, grows out both sides. So, okay, so I am going to just continue to go. I have this much yarn left. Obviously, it's starting to pull out really easily, so I don't need to relieve the tension there. This will go pretty quickly. I may fast forward through it. I may just cut the video and start up again when I'm near the end. I'd like to show you how I bring it to an end, and then you just weave the ends in, and you're done. So it's an easy project. There you can see the twist pretty vividly toward the camera there. So I'm going to just continue on and I guess meet you near the end. Now, the end will be, you'll have enough yarn if you use the number 4 Patons 100% new wool, worsted weight. Each skein, remember, was 210 yards. You'll have a small amount of yarn left over, but when we're finished, there should be a total of 9 rows. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, and then if you want to count these over here, say 4, 5, we're going to have 6, 7, 8, 9. So we're going to go around all the way twice more. Remember, if you go around twice more, you're going to grow twice on this side as well. So good luck, watch your tensions, and I'll meet you on the other side. Okay, we're coming up on the end. Here's the tail from the beginning coming out the other side. So I have 1, 2, 3 stitches. See, 1, 2 stitches. 2 stitches to get to the point where I'm going to wind it down. So there's 1, and then 2, and then I'm going to do a half double crochet, a single crochet, and a slip stitch, and then pull it through, and that's how we'll end it. Cut it off. So you can see that's the remaining yarn. Probably not enough to go all the way back around for another go at it. And then just going to pull that down. So you can see where it comes to an end, it just kind of ramps down a little bit, and what ends up happening is we should have 9 pillars across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and just on the other side of where I ended it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we have 9 both ways. So now we're going to weave in the ends. So what I normally do is I say, okay, well, this side where this was coming out of, we'll make that the back side. And so I sort of turn it all over, if you will, and get it to where I have, where I ended it coming off the top. Hopefully you can all see this. Where I ended it coming off the top, and where I started it coming out of the middle. So I got out of the top and out of the middle. So what I normally do is grab my handy yarn needle here and my threader, and thread this up. And so what I'm going to do is just find a way to take, and I want to go in a distance, back the same distance, and then in the same distance. So 1, 2, 3, and then cut it. That way, no matter how you pull it, it's not gonna pull out. So you may not be able to see this super clearly, but we'll give it a shot. So I'm going to just go in through this last stitch here and try to find my way through as many loops as I can, going in some direction. I'm going kind of across this way, and so that's probably far enough. So you can see kind of where I'm going in and where I'm coming out. And so I'll pull this through. I don't want to pull it too tight because I don't want to affect what the scarf looks like and how, you know, how it gives and stretches. I just don't want this end to pull out. So then I'm going to go and loop, grab something I can loop through, going back the same way. Going back against the other way. Again, I don't want to pull it too tight. I just want to put it in there so that it's not super highly visible. And then I'm going to do one more coming back the other way. I just always like to try to grab something so that the yarn doesn't pull through. So back through the same way I came, and then it's just going to come out down here somewhere. So right back down, back through. And so I'm just going to, again, kind of make sure it all looks okay. Just snug it up a little. And then I'm just going to go right in here and just cut this off. And there you go. See, it's not really too visible, and that won't come out. Then, like I told you earlier, we have like this little bit of a hole here, and I want to do what I can to try to close that a little. And so it looks like if I come across this way and grab this, that'll make it kind of the same size as the other ones. So thread the needle again. And I'm just going to kind of spread this out a little. I'm going to go through this loop. So it pulls up. See, it pulled that closed a little bit. I'm going to go around this circle here and come back out. And then this looks like a nice path here down through all these loops. So I'm going to go like 1, 2, 3, 4 loops down through this path. See, I'm going to try to grab all this. Okay, so I'm going to go through this and then pull that through. Not tight. I want it to be the same tension. If I stretch this out, I just want it to match that tension. Then I'm going to go back the other way. We're going to repeat the same thing so that pull this through, not tight. And make sure it can stretch out to the same as the rest of the fabric. And then I'm going to loop back down under here and go through everything again. And you'll notice I'm always trying to figure out which end to pull through. That's the loose end. So when I tighten this up, I should be able to cut this off right here. And that's it. And so then usually if this scarf would be for sale, then I fold it, which isn't always super simple because it's in a mobius shape. But if you line it up, you'll find that kind of end up with sort of a point at one end. And there you have it, one mobius scarf. Thanks for tuning in to this tutorial by Naptown Fabric Studio. I am Mark Wecht, and I hope you have enjoyed making your infinity scarf. Please join me in the future to make other products that Naptown Fabric Studio creates for art festivals and craft shows in and around Maryland. I look forward to hearing your questions and comments. Have a great day.